I suppose, like anything good, it has to come to an end sometime. And so it's with a little bit of mixed emotion that we come to the 5th installment of the 5-foot shelf of magic. In case you haven't already seen the previous videos, I've been going 1 foot at a time, giving you what Ted Annemann created and gave to the magic community as the 5-foot shelf in magic. It's something he borrowed from academia and said, if you just fill a shelf with these 5 feet of magic books, you'll be conversant across pretty much all of magic and be able to go from being an absolute beginner to someone who can be proficient in the magical arts. If you clicked on this video first, there really isn't any right or wrong way to watch these, but if you want to start from the beginning, you can check that out up here. If you know you're in the right place because you love magic books, then I think you're going to enjoy this segment. In fact, I might have a few surprises for you as we go along. One of the things that's interesting is when you go back and you look at Ted Annemann's original list, he didn't just include magic books. There was a dictionary on there were books of grammar, ventriloquism. He had a lot of different things that he thought would benefit a magician. And I want my list to be the same way. Anyone who's ever performed magic knows that when you share something with people, a lot of times their first instinct is to try to guess how you did it. Oh, it's done with trapdoors, it's done with mirrors. And it's nice sometimes to have a piece of magic ancillary material that you can share with your audience, and when you're done, you can actually show them the inner workings. In this case, I'm talking about bar bets, and the book that I'm recommending to you is The Bamo Flim Flam Conglomeration by Bob Farmer. This is actually a massive book, but that's because it's a compilation of the articles that he put into Genie and Magic magazine over a very long period of time. Bob Farmer is an attorney and a magician, among other things, but in this book, he focused almost exclusively on bar betches, stunts, things that you can wager on the outcome and most people would not intrinsically know how it's done. There are items in here with coins and ropes and dice and numbers and pretty much any small object that you can think of. And on top of that, he wrote it in a very fun style. These tricks are perfect additions to your close-up material to mix in something that isn't exactly magical, but does hook your participants and makes them realize that you have some arcane knowledge that might be worth looking into. If you want to know some of the details about what's in this book, you can check out the full review I did up here. Now, most of the Flim Flam conglomeration stuff is done close-up. It's not really stage-type material. And I feel like that's where most magicians start, is performing close-up and trying to figure out ways that they can put that magic in front of a larger audience. So to help magicians get there, my friend John Graham wrote a book called Stage by Stage. If you don't know John, he's a professional magician based out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he's put out a number of books in the last couple of years. But this one is kind of special. And the reason it's special is because the premise. In essence, he's teaching you how to take what you already know and adapt it for different performance environments. But the cool part is that's not all he does. This is not a book of theory. This is a book of magic. He's going to teach you a lot of tricks, ones that he came up with, his adaptations of some classic tricks, and he's going to show you how you structure those into a full show. And he's going to give you 3 different examples of shows that he's put together that you can learn in this book and go out and perform for people in bigger and bigger venues. If you don't believe me, check out the reviews about this book. It's been flying off the shelves because a lot of magicians understand and appreciate what John is trying to teach and how he has taken all of his experience and distilled it down into a beautiful book like this. If you've been watching this channel, then you know that one of my favorite magicians to study and read is David Regal. And there are many reasons that I enjoy his books, not the least of which is that he has such a broad view of magic. He typically teaches you things with cards. He teaches you some mentalism. He has stand-up stuff, coins, or offbeat things like a card trick with a mousetrap. But not only is the material diverse, it's written with beautiful plots that hook you, intrigue you, amuse you, or otherwise entertain you. And that's because David Regal is a professional writer. He's written for shows like The Carbonaro Effect and is a regular performer at the Magic Castle. So he knows what good magic looks like and what good scripting looks like. And in his massive tome, Interpreting Magic, he is giving you the best of all of these different things I just talked about. This is a follow-up to his earlier book, Approaching Magic, which I absolutely love. And I would recommend it, but I was trying to cut things down to just one book by each author. So if you're going to spring for a David Regal book, and I think you should, Interpreting Magic is one of his best. It's thick, it's heavy with magic, and it's got so much great stuff in here. And not only do you get all the tricks and the scripting that I talked about, but he has also interviewed a plethora of magicians that you're going to want to hear from, interviewing them about various facets of magic and extract some of their knowledge to share with you. I'm absolutely confident that if you give David Regal a chance, you too will fall in love with his style of writing and magic. And if you want to learn more about him as an artist and as a magician, then you can check out the interview that I did with him a while back. One of the things that Annemann pointed out when he was doing his 5-foot shelf of magic, and I plan to do a future episode about this, is the cost of the shelf. If you think about what you've seen in this 5-foot shelf of magic that I've put out there, it's definitely quite a bit of money to buy everything on the shelf. And I always recommend that you take your time. But this next book that I'm about to recommend is absolutely free, and it pulls from some of the best magical thinkers ever to put pen to paper. How can this be free, you ask? Well, my employer, Josh and Andy over at Vanishing Ink, secured the permission to print some of the best advice ever written in a book called Magic in Mind. This one is only available as an ebook, but don't let that dissuade you from picking it up. They pulled some of the essays from, for example, Darwin Ortiz, Tommy Wonder, David Regal, John Carney, and many of the books that I've recommended. If you haven't been able to purchase them, you can still read some of what their authors had to say in this book. The lessons you'll learn are indispensable. And the cool part is you're getting what everybody wants in a magic book, a best of from some of the top names in magic. There are well over 30 authors included in this book, so I don't know what you're waiting for. Use the link down below to download it right now and incorporate some of this great thinking into your magic. This video is sponsored by Don's Magic and Books. Don is a close friend of mine and a magic book dealer, which is why it's so easy for me to recommend his business to you. Don sells all kinds of magic books, so when you hear about these books that are new or something just coming out, of course he's going to have that. But I think what makes Don different than your typical online magic bookstore is that he has so many books that are out of print. Part of his mission statement is to keep books in circulation for as long as possible, which means that when someone no longer needs their books for one reason or another, Don usually comes in to help facilitate a new library where that book can be read and appreciated. So if you're looking for a book that's rare or out of print, then shop with Don's Magic and Books. I'm going to drop a link down in the description below, so if you follow that, you can check out his website and the plethora of books that he has to offer there, as well as all of the great deals and fast and free shipping if you meet certain minimum thresholds in the United States. I don't know what you're waiting for. Check him out and become a lifelong customer like so many other erudite magicians. I referenced earlier in this episode that when you get started in magic, it's very typical to start with close-up tricks. And before you get into something like a stage by stage that helps you play to a bigger audience, you often want to figure out how you can make your magic work in the smaller context, maybe doing some walk-around shows. Well, if you're interested in doing that and you have no idea how to take this magic that you're learning and monetize it or put it out there commercially for the world to see, then you need a book like The Approach by Jamie D. Grant. This book is like a combination workbook textbook of everything Jamie learned as he was going from complete amateur to a part-time professional. It's written like a series of blog posts, each chapter dealing with a different topic. But it's so interactive. Jamie wrote the book in different fonts and sizes, places for you to write things down, exercises for you to go through, because he understands the value in getting you to buy in, to put your own thoughts into something, and to insert yourself into what you're learning. So the book doesn't really teach any magic tricks, but what it does do is help you figure out how to piece together what you already know so that you can go get booked and perform walk-around magic in your area. He'll teach you how to do pricing, how to get ready for the gig, what you need for a contract or a business card. He gives you templates. Ultimately, he holds your hand the whole way through, and I personally have applied what he taught to get some of my first paying gigs. So I know it works. We're closing in here on the end of the books that I have to recommend for you. And if we go back to Annemann and in that original write-up, he talks about a book that's not yet out. It's a book being written by John Northern Hilliard. We now know it as Greater Magic, one of the largest compendiums of magic to come out during that era around Annemann. It was a huge undertaking and includes all kinds of magic, a lot like Tarbell in the sense that it's cards, it's stage stuff, it's billiards and rope, ropes, and any kind of apparatus you could think of. There's a chapter for everything. And some of the top names in magic at the time contributed tricks to his greater magic. Well, my recommendation isn't this older Greater Magic because it's been out of print for a long time after going through many iterations, but it's actually the future Greater Magic being written by Richard Kaufman. Richard's been writing this for a number of years, and I know it's going to be worth the wait. It'll include not only the older manuscripts, but also a lot of new tricks and thoughts that Richard has pulled together. And even though I already have a copy of the original Greater Magic, I cannot wait to get my hands on this newer version. It's not typical for me to recommend a book I haven't read, but I'm confident in both Richard Kaufman and the Greater Magic mythology, so without reservation I can tell you, start saving up because you're going to want to get Greater Magic. I'm closing this segment, this 5-foot shelf of magic, with a book that I feel is appropriate to end this series. We're circling all the way back around to the beginning, where Ted Annemann came up with this idea, laid out this wonderful concept of having a big shelf of magic, and I hope you've had fun over these past 5 videos with the books that I've suggested. But this last one is special. It's Annemann's Enigma by the Miracle Factory. I've mentioned a couple of Miracle Factory books already, and this one is one of my favorites. I absolutely love Ted Annemann's magic, and if you've done what I've said on this shelf, then you probably already have practical mental effects. But that doesn't mean you don't need Annemann's Enigma, because the Enigma encompasses a lot more than just what was in the Jinx. Annemann also published several books, and those are included here in Annemann's Enigma. In fact, pretty much everything that Annemann ever came out with is included in Annemann's Enigma, except for his bullet catch. The editors thought that it was too dangerous for them to include in there, but otherwise, you're pretty much getting it all. And like all the other Miracle Factory books, you're getting way more than just the tricks. You're getting some of the advertising, some of the correspondence, the history, photos, articles by others touching on Annemann's life. So if you, like me, want to truly appreciate the genius of a guy like Ted Annemann, then check out Annemann's Enigma. It's been a wild ride here on this 5-foot shelf. I want to hear from you down below. What are some of your favorite books from the 5-foot shelf of magic, whether ones I suggested or ones that you feel magicians should have? As always, my friend, I appreciate you watching. And until next time,